What makes a non-human organism intelligent? In psychology, intelligence is divided into 12 distinct types. However, some of these are difficult to align with animals. For example, intrapersonal intelligence is almost impossible to quantify in non-human organisms. Ultimately, differences in adaptation, habitat, communication, and brain structure make it difficult to compare non-human and human intelligence.
IQ tests are often used to measure intelligence. However, these are biased towards specific kinds of intelligence. Animal IQ tests differ, focusing on use of tools and social structure. Although this is good for ranking between animals, it's difficult to compare to humans, making determining intelligence impossible using IQ alone.
For example, creatures like crows may outperform elephants in problem solving due to adaptation. However, elephants would score higher on a social measuring test due to their complex social behaviours. Elephants display insightful emotional intelligence, for example, by mourning deceased companions and carrying their bones or tusks. In comparison, crows do not mourn. They use the event of death to identify possible dangers such as predators. Alarm calls to attract other crows, and the group adjusts behaviour accordingly. Crows often remember the location of their dead and avoid these areas as potential hazards, highlighting their problem solving and spatial awareness, while elephants demonstrate stronger social and emotional intelligence.
The average human brain weighs approximately 1.3 to 1.4 kilograms. However, the largest brain belongs to the sperm whale at 9 kilograms, and elephants have the largest brains of all land organisms. Dolphins, elephants, and whales have complex social hierarchies and large brains, potentially signalling intelligence. However, a larger brain may not equal intelligence. Crows have a brain of around 1.7 grams, but demonstrate advanced problem-solving skills as well as good memory. In addition, sperm whales use large areas of the brain to control their large body, so intelligence is limited.
Another measure of intelligence is the brain-to-body ratio. A smaller body with a relatively larger brain requires fewer neurons for basic motor control. Crows and humans have high ratios and are more intelligent. However, this relationship is non-linear. Elephants have lower ratios than rats yet display more complex social behaviour.
Brain structure can be used to explain intelligence disparities. Both dolphins and humans have highly folded brains, increasing the surface area and grey matter volume, which supports neural processing as grey matter performs computations. Humans possess an enlarged 6-layer cortex, while dolphins have a smaller prefrontal cortex and a 5-layer neocortex. This could account for a difference in intelligence. However, dolphins have larger areas that deal with sound processing due to their 3D aquatic environment. Both humans and crows have large numbers of synapses in the brain. This means there are more connections between neurons, so their brains are better evolved for faster computing and processing. This could contribute to their intelligence.
An adaptation which may be unique to humans are concept cells. Seen by a team at the University of Leicester, these are neurons that fire repeatedly when a specific pattern, especially a person, is recognised, regardless of context. This could be the root of high-level intelligence as humans. For example, when showing the same person in vastly different contexts, the same section of neurons fire repeatedly. However, in rats, when the context was changed, different neurons were fired. This meant that the rat did not recognise the pattern as the same. This form of memory may explain why humans appear more intelligent than other mammals, and likely occurred through differentiation from other primates to better recognise patterns for comparison and utilise previously learned information in a new context.
Some non-human organisms exhibit intelligent behaviour despite lacking brains or nervous systems. For example, slime molds demonstrate cognitive ability through biological processes. Some slime molds live as individual cells but can aggregate in the right conditions, while others are single-celled organisms that can grow to meters long, containing thousands to millions of nuclei with no membrane between them. The most studies is Physarum faleifsolu, and it is easily cultured in a lab and displays complex behaviours such as chemotaxis. Similar to human noses, slime molds have receptors on the surface which detect chemicals that indicate food, moisture, pH, and light. Signals from the receptors alter the direction of flow towards favourable conditions without a central nerve.
Slime molds can pathfind to food, finding the shortest route using surface receptors alone. In one experiment, a slime mold identified the shortest route to connect 37 points. When fragmented, slime molds can reassemble into a functional whole, indicating that they have distributed spatial organisation that is not controlled by a central brain. Slime molds can also show decision-making and nutrition, avoiding harmful foods and balancing intake by stretching multiple directions to achieve optimal nutrition. They can also compromise between quality and risk. When presented with high-quality food in bright light and low-quality food in darkness, slime molds will only like to enter the light. Food quality was significantly higher, demonstrating ability to process information and make decisions.
Slime molds can also remember what they've been through external slime trails which the slime mold responds to. However, slime molds have also been known to adapt quicker than other organisms. One experiment involved forcing a slime mold to cross a bridge covered in salt. On the first day it took 10 hours, however the slime mold gradually got quicker until it could cross the salted bridge as quickly as the bridge without salt. This adaptation was also shared among other slime molds as they fused together to create one larger organism with this adaptation.
These behaviours cannot be categorised in the human view of intelligence, yet they are undoubtedly intelligent. So what makes a non-human organism intelligent?
While non-human intelligence cannot be defined using human standards such as IQ, evidence from animals shows that intelligence is better understood as the ability to process information, adapt behaviour, and solve problems within an organism's environment. These behaviours arise through evolution from random mutations. Ultimately, a non-human organism is intelligent if it can use information and adapt effectively, even without a brain. Therefore, we think that intelligence should exist at a spectrum, with different organisms such as crows or dolphins classified as highly intelligent.